Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gary's Glorious Golden Nuggets. And today is episode 0037. And we have Steven Gerein, who is visiting us today online from Canada. He tells me that he intends to move to the United States in about a couple of weeks to live in Florida, which to me makes a lot of sense.
Me too.
Steven grew up in a small farming community. He's got a love for country music. He's been playing in country bands. He had a band called Wyld. They've cut an album. He knows the music industry very well. And he is an online entrepreneur. He has created a music licensing platform called Songshop. And he'll tell us a little bit more about Songshop later on in this episode. So I want to welcome you, Steven, to this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be meeting you all the way across the pond here.
Well, the pond isn't that big when you consider the digital world. It's just right next door. So, Steven, what did you wish you had known before you walked into the digital world as an entrepreneur?
I think not even necessarily the digital entrepreneur world, but the entrepreneurial world in general. Mindset is probably the most important tool in your toolbox when you're trying to create things and get yourself out there and put yourself out there in front of, thousands, millions of people with the internet these days. People have opinions and you need to keep yourself above them and keep your thoughts and your mindset in check, or else you will self-destruct. And I have learned that the hard way a couple times. So that's something that I wish I would have known beforehand, but it was also something I was able to get a handle on very quickly. And secondly, I think I probably knew this, but my ego didn't like it. You can't do everything yourself. And even if you can, you probably shouldn't, because there's only so much time in a day. And if you don't love absolutely everything you're doing, you're going to burn yourself out. And so get people to help you before you think you need people to help you, because it will just make your whole journey a lot smoother.
I will say that mindset is 100% spot on. And life is too short to do the things you don't like doing. If you can get those farmed out, get them farmed out, and let you focus on what you do best and what you like to do. It's all about passion on this end of the field, all about passion. As an entrepreneur, there are things that we do that we think are great plans, and sometimes they don't work out so well. Some of them are big, some of them are small. Can you think of like one of the big ones and tell us what you learned from that experience?
What was one of the biggest ones that I've learned, and this was actually quite recently that I finally learned this lesson, is especially in the digital world, keep things up to date, keep programs up to date, keep your softwares up to date. Because when your developers are telling you to do these things and you kind of push them to the side because there's more important stuff to do, and your platform that you build starts not working the way as intended because there's glitches and things, you think that would be the first time you would learn that lesson, when your developers have to go back in and fix it. But what happened to me was I neglected this once again, and I actually had some hackers get into my platform. The whole thing was shut right down. And so I went to go check on something one morning, and I got redirected to this very spammy looking website. And then I tried to log into my back end and I couldn't get in. I was, okay, something's going on here. And yeah, ended up, I had people get into my website through programs I didn't keep updated, and they installed some malware and things like that. And my developers had to go in and clean all that out and kind of get everything back up and going. And then I finally learned that lesson. So it took me 2 times to figure that one out. But that's a pretty important one, I think.
I think anybody who enters into the digital universe, especially if they're not really all that techie to begin with, they discover very quickly that when you're told there's an update. Yeah. You have to make those updates. You can't just sit there and say, I'll get to it next week. No, update now, because other things are coming in to update depending on the fact that you've already updated that one. Big learning curve there. And this is what life does for us, doesn't it? I mean, there's a place called Central Casting, someplace on planet Earth, that keeps sending us the same lessons until we learn it. And that lesson is, do not procrastinate. Do today what you need to do today, and then move on. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't, things just keep building up, and then all of a sudden it's been weeks or months, and then you still haven't done what you need to do.
Absolutely. Time management. And here's the biggest lesson for me when I came to be an entrepreneur. I did not realize that I was responsible for everything. I had been an employee for most of my life, And
Mhm.
as an employee, there was always some department you could shove it off on, or some employee making a mistake or something else. But when I became the entrepreneur, I was responsible. I had to make sure everything was there, that there were pens for people to write with and paper to write on, and the computers were working, the lights were on, and that's all there is
Yeah,
to it.
everything becomes your problem when it's your endeavor you're going down. You
Yeah,
can't just shove it off to somebody else. No, this is their department, it's not mine. Everything's your department.
everything's your department. That's absolutely correct. So, what has been the biggest resource that you have found that's benefited you as an entrepreneur?
This is really general, but I'll get into it a little bit more in detail. But the internet, the old YouTube university, as they like to call, I have had some really, really great mentors by taking online courses and getting into little masterminds and things like that. And lots of these people who, were providing my biggest resources and things like that with online courses don't even know who I am, but they were a big part of me learning as fast as I did. I'm very fortunate to have a very fast processing speed and can retain a lot of knowledge at one time. So I have been taking tons and tons of online courses, listening to podcasts, reading all kinds of blogs, things like that. Like there's so much information online that you can get, especially for free these days. You can educate yourself very quickly and properly.
I think that's one of the biggest secrets about the internet or about the digital universe is that everything is posted somewhere, and usually you can find it for free with very good information. So
Mhm.
yeah, great resource, great resource. Take time. And I loved when you said masterminds, because masterminds, I'll let you talk about it. Talk a little bit more about masterminds.
Yeah, so it's essentially, I mean, there's all kinds of different ones, of course, but it's just a group of people who are kind of sharing the same vision and working towards not necessarily the same goal, but a common goal within their business or their entrepreneurial journey, depending, what you're doing. And it's just a great place where there's usually somebody who is the head of the mastermind, the guru, the person who kind of owns it, right? And then there's all of the members, and you can just bounce ideas off each other, or shoot somebody a message, or maybe somebody else is struggling with something that you have been too, and they find their answer in this mastermind, and you kind of just absorb everything that everyone else is learning. It's just like a really big team learning environment where everybody's learning from each other. Essentially, it's just really cool.
Yeah, I find that we need community. Too many people come into the digital world thinking that they are a solo entrepreneur. I have a website, I have an email address, that's all I need. And another big secret is that business, whether you're in the brick and mortar world or you're in the digital world, is all about relationships.
Hmm.
And there's greater access to relationships online.
Yep. And lots of times your relationships are going to take you a lot farther than just getting in the trenches and doing it yourself. Because, I mean, there's a really good chance that you can find somebody who will be willing to help you out and mentor you that is even just a step or two or three ahead of you, but they've already done it and they'll help you. There's no need to reinvent the wheel here.
Success leaves clues.
Yes, it sure does.
So far, everybody listening has just been hit with one golden nugget after another because you've just laid one truth out after another. People are going to be really benefiting from this podcast already, I can tell. So thank you so much for that,
Awesome.
Stephen.
No,
So,
not a problem. I enjoy sharing.
so your business that you have is Song Shop. Tell us something
Yes.
more about that.
So Songshop is something that I created because I saw a gap in the music industry. As far as the music industry goes, having, bigger name writers or even being an independent artist trying to find songs to record from a publisher and things like that, there's really no way of you to access those things. And it being an independent songwriter without, being signed to a publisher or somebody who can get your music out there for you, they're kind of just, basement warriors. They don't really have a way to get their craft out to the world. And Songshop kind of bridges both of these gaps and it marries up these songwriters with these artists and provides licensing and provides a platform for songwriters to actually make some money with their songs. And the thing about what I wanted to create is lots of these publishing platforms and anything else that might be out there, the royalty structure and the way that things have to be paid to other people and set up is very complicated, and people lose percentages of their copyrights and these things and their publishing. And as a songwriter, you like, I'm going to be honest about it, you don't make a ton of money anyways. And so having people take a little bit of what you do make, especially as an independent, it can, it's not like it's totally detrimental, but it sucks, right? Because if you're only making so much money and somebody's taking 25 to 30% of it, it's like, well, I needed that for this next project or for marketing or for whatever. And my platform is set up so both parties retain 100% of all royalties, all copyright, everything like that. So it's very much geared towards the independent creator. And because I am an independent artist, I am an independent songwriter, I was looking for something just like it and I couldn't find it. So I just decided to create it myself.
Sounds like a no-brainer. If you're a songwriter, if you are a guy who likes to write the music, if you like to create, it just sounds like a no-brainer. If I get to keep more money for the same effort, why not?
Yeah, and like another really cool thing to bring up is, so the average song for a songwriter will only make about $43 in its lifetime, the way things are currently set up. But with platforms like Songshop, the songwriters get paid a licensing fee up front. And depending what that fee is, they can make twice that much in a single transaction, plus whatever royalties are going to make on top. So it's the way the music industry is headed right now. And song licensing is going to be a big thing, because I'm sure everybody knows, or I'm sure not everybody knows, but if you've been in the music industry, streaming, Spotify, all of these things have drastically changed the way creators make money over the last few years. And I think lots of the bigger companies have been trying to almost pretend like it's not happening and just like, no, we can still do things the way that we used to do things. But the way that we used to do things does not work anymore. And creators, like, years ago, not many years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago, there was like 4,000 to 5,000 signed writers in Nashville. That's writers that are signed to publishers making money songwriting every day. Today, there's under 1,000. So that's how much things have changed over the past few years. And it's just because the way that we make money doing it has changed so much. So we have to essentially catch up, and we have to change as well to kind of keep up or get left behind. So it's very forward thinking.
I think anybody who's lived around long enough realizes that music and the music delivery systems have changed radically. As a child, as a small child, I remember the 78 playing Victrola being replaced by the 33, the third record being replaced, with, well, I guess the 45 came first, and then came the 33, the long play. Then we had the 8-track, then we had cassettes. And then the big thing was to get yourself a disc. Everybody was talking about the CD.
Yeah.
And even I today, when I think of music, I think of CD, but nobody sells them anymore. You never see them anywhere anymore. They're just not there. And
I should have one of mine to hold up.
Yeah, that's right. You have a historical object there. There's kids who are born today who are walking around, have no idea what a CD is.
No
they just
idea.
Don't have a clue. If it's not being streamed, what is it? How could you live like that? That's primitive. And that's the world. And just think about it. Like podcasting, it didn't exist until 2008. Whoever would have thought that this could exist, that this would ever happen? But here we are. We're living in that world, ladies and gentlemen. We're living in that world. So let me ask you another question. You have like some pillars in your life, a few people who have really helped you along the way, or have supported you, or have given you guidance. They could be books, they could be authors, they could be family members. It doesn't really matter. But 3 pillars. Can you tell me who or what they would be?
That's a really tough question, because there's been so many throughout life. I'm fortunate to be a very creative person. I have a very creative brain, and I think that is lots in part to my love of reading. Being a kid, I used to get in trouble from my teachers in math class because I was reading my Harry Potter books when I was younger. so that's kind of how I was younger. I loved to read, and it just really, really fueled my imagination. And so, books like that, being younger, Harry Potter, like J.K. Rowling, all of her stuff was a big influence as a kid that really got my imagination going. And I think it has a lot to do with my creativeness today. More recently, before I got into this entrepreneurial journey, I got into Tony Robbins. I'm sure as many other people have. Belief shattering mindset, all that stuff is huge. Another really awesome entrepreneur who's been, I shouldn't say a mentor because he doesn't even know who I am, but James Wedmore. He's a digital entrepreneur. He does awesome work. I love, love, love his opinions and his views on everything. He's very, very mindset based and stuff like that. I know lots of people like to preach hard work and hard work pays off, but if you don't have the right mindset and intention behind what you're doing could be in vain. So I like that approach to things because it just makes everything so much easier. And then another person who's been very influential has been my wife too. She is a counselor and a life coach and mentor, and her views on things have been definitely life changing. There's been a lot of growth in the last few years for us both.
Well, thank you. Here's something else. I mean, you've really pointed out some really good pillars and foundations, and the concept of constantly learning, you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing. Obviously, the law of attraction, how you do business, because it's your intention that brings the results to you.
Mhm.
It's focusing on your why, having a great big want, and the how kind of shows up, and you follow
Mhm.
that path. So in this digital world, there are a lot of myths. There's things that people believe that just aren't true, but they wouldn't know it unless they actually got into this digital world. Would you like to
Mhm.
just take one of your favorites and bust it wide open for our audience?
I'm sure people have heard this one lots, but online business is easy and you're just setting up a money funnel. That one, it still irks me a little bit because it's just like when I hear that, people that are saying it have absolutely no idea what goes on behind the scenes. And it's not even, like I said, it's not even necessarily the physical things that you're actually doing. It's the mental growth and the learning and all of that stuff, keeping yourself and not letting what other people say and think affect you so much, right? And just all the learning and growing that has to be done that way. It really is an uphill battle, especially when you're starting from a very in the box thought mentality, right? Just to break outside of that box and really see things for the way they are with an open mind is a lot is a lot more difficult than people think it is. And that's probably why people say that too, because they can't grasp it. They don't understand it.
So you've been digitally red pilled, Neo. Is that correct? But that's the truth. I mean, the people who are on the blue pill, you just are asleep to what the reality is. And when you come in on the red pill, you start to see what the digital world is really about, and all the myths that come on. And you're the first person to ever bust that one. So well done.
Oh, right.
Well done. Don't ever assume that somebody else has already said it. You're unique, you're original, it happens. So my friend, you're really quite interesting. You really have an interesting product. How would somebody get in touch with you if they were interested in going further with you?
All right. Well, I do have a contact page on my website at songshop.ca. I also have Instagram. My business Instagram is at songshop.ca, and my personal Instagram is at Steve Gerein. That's spelled Gerein. And then I also have a Facebook group that I'm semi-regularly active in, and you can reach out to me and message me through there. It's facebook.com/groups/songshop.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, all of that will be put into the show notes as well as the biography we got from Steven. So you can follow up on that. Just look into the show notes. It'd be great. So let me tell you what happens with this show. I always give everybody 2 minutes to tell us whatever's on their heart. Doesn't have to be about Songshop, doesn't have to be about being a digital entrepreneur. It's just whatever you want to talk about.
Mhm.
And your 2 minutes, Stephen, starts now.
I think this is really pertinent to especially this age that we're in. Just be a good person. There's so much division in the world, especially over in North America where I am right now. It's very political and people like I don't know why it always has to be left or right or black or white. Like at the end of the day, everybody is just doing the best they can with the information that they have. and everybody is a human being. So just treat them like a human being. Treat everybody like they're your friend, like they're your neighbor. You don't know what they might be going through. And just shooting a stranger a smile as you pass them on the sidewalk might be enough to change their whole day around. So I think, especially in today's day and age, just being nice to everyone, being responsible for what you say and share on social media. People like to think that they're invincible. And I'm seeing some things go on right now that is showing very much the opposite. So be responsible about what you say. If you wouldn't say it to that person's face sitting in a bar with them, why would you type it to them in a comment section? So just be responsible for your actions and just be a good person. It's not that hard. And everybody will be a lot better for it.
Those were good words. I really appreciate that, Stephen, because it kind of reminds me of the old song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. And people forgot,
Yep.
we're all neighbors to each other. We need to watch out for our neighbors, watch out for the other fellow. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share it with somebody you think could really use it. If you're a musician and you're looking for an option in regards to retaining some more of your royalty money, why don't you go check out Steven's Song Shop. And again, those details will be in the show notes for you. And we will catch you all on the next podcast. Thank you.